One of the cool things that Optiwise Wealth Advisory can do, it's if you're interested in property, is taking control. And so the self-managed super fund gives you the ability to invest directly, but then the other things that you're looking at is what do you do with the rest of the funds? If it's not just in property, what else might you be able to invest in? And that's where you come in really from a diversification point of view.
Yeah, absolutely. So anyone who has an SMSF, I would always encourage them to have a property in it. If you have an SMSF without a property, I feel like you're doing a disservice to yourself. The remaining of the funds, obviously, we can invest directly into stocks. Popular brand names such as Apple, Google, obviously we can invest them directly rather than the fund owning them.
Yeah.
So any dividends, any franking credits, you get full exposure to that. So your risk doesn't necessarily change. It's probably the same risk, but your returns will be slightly higher than your average fund. But again, I can't reiterate this enough, and I don't get paid to do this. If you do not have property within your SMSF, you're doing yourself a disservice. And I wouldn't say this is one of my favorite stats. It's a damning stat. The highest rate of homelessness in Australia is women over 55. And because an SMSF is separated from your actual self, if anything were to happen, if you go through some bad luck in your life, you never know, you will always have that property to fall back on. Yes, you may have to change a few of the ownership rules once you retire, but you'll always have something there. And I think that is the most important part. One of the most important reasons why we should have property within SMSF.
So at Optiwise Wealth Advisory, we just thought we'd give you a bit of an introduction to the different roles within the group and the parts that Rob and AFIC and Optiwise bring to what we do. I think it's important to understand as you're taking control of your own super, to know how important the team is and what those roles are. So we might start with you, Rob, in the role that you and your team at FDA play in Optiwise Wealth Advisory.
Okay. Well, we help people with the S and the M of self-managed super funds. So the self-managing. You guys are going to do the work. We help the administration side of it. And there are rules, and there are complex rules, and you need to obey the rules. Otherwise, the regulator's going to come, and you're going to get in trouble, and you're going to get your fine. So we make sure you don't get in trouble and you don't get your fine, and you stick to what you're able to do and what you're able to invest in. We do a whole lot more, and we do things like how do we maximize our investments, and what do we do with our returns, and what do we do, and we always say that the self-managed super funds are so underutilized that you can if they were used to their full extent, then you would get unlimited exponential investment returns. There's things like succession planning. There's things like maximizing your franking credits, so maximizing when you lodge a notice of intention so you don't pay your tax 9 months before you have to. So there's a whole lot of really smart, neat things we do. That's what we do.
So really, that core components around structuring, knowing what the boundaries are, knowing what you can and can't do, which is obviously a lot more in your own self-managed super funds, and because you have control, you just need to know how not to step outside the guidelines.
That's the most important thing, yeah. Not to step outside the guidelines, and then we can jump in and do a whole lot more if we need to.
Yeah.
So, as a financial planner, what we do is we qualify you to make sure that you meet all the requirements in order to establish a self-managed super fund. And then once that happens, we'll talk with Rob in order to get your super fund created together. And then we give you an investment thesis on how we should be investing your funds. So that could be from buying property to diversification of this self-managed super fund. And then on top of that, we'll make sure that your insurance is up to date, if there's any estate planning that comes with it as well. There are a few other things that we do behind the scenes as well. That could be anywhere from ensuring your investments meet its target projections, ensure you're not over leveraged, for example, ensuring the properties that you buy suit your risk profile, for example. Sometimes people decide, hey, this property is not for me because I need it to be positively geared, or another one says I need it neutrally geared. So whatever it is, we help work with you to make sure all the numbers fit. Then together with Rob, we'll make sure we execute everything together.
And then from an Optiwise group point of view, we have the property advisory side. So what that then does is when you're looking at investing in property, make sure that we help you with the strategy. The strategy is the most important side of it, because every property you invest in either enables or limits what your fund can do next when it comes to property. Make sure you've got the right funding, which has the same sort of impact around that. So you're maximising that opportunity from a property point of view, and then also from a property management. So literally a one-stop shop on the property side. So if you've got the fund established through Rob and his team, you've got all the guidelines in place, you've got all your funds there and ready to go. You know, AFIC is going to help you with direction around property and diversification, and then when it comes to the specific property, everything is taken care of. So Optiwise Wealth Advisory has the whole team that you need to make it as easy as possible to get your fund established, to manage your fund, to know what to invest in, and to do that well so that you're maximising those returns. So if you haven't already, download the Self-Managed Super Fund Guide. There's a whole range of other information there on the Optiwise Wealth Advisory site and the Optiwise Property Group site. Everything you need to know around self-managed super fund investment.